Hey guys, I am Sanford's Spivey. I work on our global business development team at Sonos. And so Aaron introduced a little bit what Sonos is, but we're really the home sound system, which means we deliver, in essence, black boxes throughout our people's homes and let them deliver and experience the content that they love in a high quality way. So today, cool, that works. I'm actually going to dive in a little bit into the Sonos history and really the things were at play when we started the company. I think it's really important of how we look at partnering today and really how we position ourselves to be successful as an organization. Then I'll go into really what we define as the Sonos sound system, which is a lot of where my role stems and where I go and work with strategic partnerships to build into the Sonos ecosystem and the technology stacks. And then finally, I'll touch upon brand building. And so a lot of that comes from the relationships and partnerships that we build. But there's a secret sauce and a few principles that Sonos has kind of taken under their wing and something that I stand by and where I think is really important as you're kind of trying to fight these big technology companies that may have more resources, more time on their hands, and more investment from a marketing perspective. How do you break through that noise and how do you actually become a successful brand in this space? So I like to ground where we started in the current business environment. And so it's pretty crazy to think we actually started in 2002. And at the time, Napster had just launched. So 2000 was about when Napster had just launched and completely changed the music business as a whole. Majority CD consumption at that point, mixtapes, and some crazy founder went and put that all on the internet and completely disrupted the entire value chain of business in the music industry, as well as other places. A year later, 2001, iTunes was launched. And so that was really the first global legalization of digitized music. And again, really changed the way we think about business and think about the music industry as a whole. Blockbuster was still around. It was still a thing. And they were just actually building up. I think they started in about 1998, so this was maybe 4 years into their start, and they were building up all these brick and mortar stores and didn't know what was coming from Netflix pretty soon after. And I still think there's one in Alaska, which is a pretty cool showcase, testament to what can happen with disruptive technology and disruptive entrepreneurs. And then finally, I like to put this one. This was like the boy band era. So NSYNC was popping. I think JT's in there. It's not as blurry of a slide, but that was a time where boy bands were popping, and that was what was happening in music. The final thing I love to point out during this time is there were 19 million or so AOL customers that had dial-up internet in the home. So as you think about all these things, you're not like, it's obvious I should start a multi-room wireless sound system, and we're going to be really successful. But some of the things that our founders foresaw, and maybe even a little too early, to be honest, were these 4 components. And so they saw this internet, this rise of internet, and the ability to program it and apply it to different verticals and technologies in multiple different ways. And they thought, okay, maybe we can apply this to the music industry, and in particular, how do people listen and consume content in the home? The second was computer costs. They were dramatically dropping in terms of the cost of computers, the ability for us to invest in chipsets and different technologies in the home. And so if you really break down every Sonos speaker today, they're mini computers. And so that concept of we actually can build an obtainable price point for all consumers to buy these little computers and have them communicate with each other was just becoming a real thing. The third, which I already kind of touched upon, but it's just digitization of content in general. So streaming was becoming a real thing in music. It was almost going to become a real thing in TV. And there were a need for us to be able to listen better. And that's a big slogan we have at Sonos is you want to enable that consumer to listen to any content that matters to them and listen better. And so all the digitization of this was giving us the ability to say, there's this niche we can serve because everything is now online. And then the fourth one is LANs, so local area networks, the ability for someone to pop up a distinct wireless network in their home and communicate with things on them. These are all not proven yet, and we didn't actually know the success of these things, but these are the 4 things that the founders saw and said, okay, maybe there's something interesting that we can build together, and that's connecting black boxes between each other and streaming content over the internet. So I like to come back to this because this is actually our mission that we wrote in about 2002. And it's a simple mission, it's a focused mission, and it is what helped us succeed overall as a business over time. And it's so super focused, super clear, and everyone that joined the organization and still joins the organization understands that although it's tweaking a little bit now because there's a little few other disruptors, it was really giving music lovers, the people that really love their content and their music, and in particular the digital library that they're now building, because iTunes was around and they had these big NAS drives where they would host all their tracks and songs, and they wanted to play it throughout their home, in any song throughout their home, right, and in any room, and be able to control that in a high quality way. And so at that time, most of the customization of home audio was in ceiling speakers or installs, and then big kind of amps or other control mechanisms that there was a lot of wiring of things, and it didn't give them much control and flexibility. And so we saw this as an opportunity and a clear mission of where we wanted to drive to as an organization. This is another slide I love to show because this is the initial software and hardware architecture of Sonos. And it looks, through some of all the little jotting and writing and a few things that have moved around, that's basically what our product looks like today. And you can say that's a big testament to how our founders kind of visionary saw this ecosystem arising, but also how we stayed so focused on what our true mission is. And so if you can see, these are essentially our speakers today. They're all communicating over some sort of local area network or your Wi-Fi. And then up there, which there was no smartphones at the time, there was some sort of handheld device that was controlling everything. And so this is a great testament to our founders and how they think about really focusing and keeping that core. And it's really our core IP that still sits with Sonos today and is valuable, is around this one piece of paper, which is pretty cool. So another thing that we as a company started to think about was, what are the core principles and, tenets of our organization? And the one thing that was clear in a lot of our initial founders was you always start with the customer. And again, I think Bezos has done a really good job at proliferating that across a lot of technology today. But at the time, not as many people thought about doing that and starting with the customer and really working your way back. And so we always thought, maybe customers aren't going to want to plug in all these different devices. Maybe they're not going to have all these different controllers and wiring throughout their home. And so we need to make it as super simple as possible for us to succeed. And so you'll hear me throughout this presentation say it a few times. We've shrunk basically this little statement into experience comes first. And what we mean by that is the customer experience is what matters. What matters at retail. It's what matters when we're building our product experiences, our software experiences. And if we're not delivering on that experience, or it's not the first thing that we think about, we're probably not going to be as successful as we would be. So 3 years after we incorporated, we shipped our first product. And so you can see that middle product, which is still on the market today and is still being sold, which is called the Connect Amp. And so this was really serving the need and an intelligent box of connecting to quote unquote dumber speakers that didn't have the intelligence, and allow them to be controlled wirelessly with that physical controller. And keep in mind, again, this was 2 years before iPhone had launched. This is a few years before the idea of streaming services had really captured the mass market. And so at the time, it was a super interesting thing that people at a deployment of hardware and software that we did. And a key thing to look at here is we wanted to build this super flexible. And so at the time, we thought we were going to be shipping those controllers for 10 to 15 years. But 2 years later, we realized, oh my goodness, there's this big company called Apple that is shipping this device. And this may be what everyone has in their pocket in the future. And so over this 2007, 2008 period, we made a hard pivot and said, we're literally not going to start selling any of those hardware controllers anymore. This is the future. And so we made a very proactive decision to cut those sales, shift all of our resources in building on this operating system to allow us to succeed as an organization. It's another testament to how we think about pivoting and ensuring our technology is built for the future. And we need to make really hard calls because we were making a lot of money on these little boxes, right, that were controlling our systems. But we saw this as the best experience for the customer and also the way of the future. So I already touched upon kind of that top one, but our organization over the last couple of years has had, or really 2005 to about 2015, we've made hard pivots, right? And we've needed to build this into our technology for us to be alive, right? And that's a testament to the entrepreneurship that we have of our founders, but also just our organization, what we've built on. And again, experience comes first. And all these pivots were made around that and what consumers were actually utilizing and what was important to them. And so the top one I talked about, but we made a hard shift from controlling everything from this physical device that we manufactured to just software through all these mobile devices, these mini computers that people had in their pockets. The second was around, which was a little bit slower, but even more important, I think, was moving from digital catalogs that you bought each individual song to more of a licensing model of people would pay a flat fee and get access to all the music in the world. And so that middle pivot we really made was we actually built a software layer to allow any music streaming services to integrate into the Sonos ecosystem. So we didn't bet just on one, and we actually have about 100 so music content providers on the Sonos platform today, and is a core value proposition for our customers. It's giving them choice. It's giving them the ability to choose which devices or as many as they want in terms of streaming content. So that was another extremely important pivot, and we, instead of just allowing people to stream their digital MP3s, we said, okay, we'll build a software technology and platform that allows Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, all these different streaming providers to proliferate and become something on our platform and use us as an avenue for the high quality experience that they want to see. The third, which may be super obvious today, but wasn't at the time, was we went from making kind of these boxes that actually plugged into existing speakers to all-in-one speakers. So a big core part of our strategy at the initial start was like, we're going to build intelligence that's going to connect to all these different things that are already in people's homes versus building all of what they needed and selling that to them. And so that was a core part of our pivot. Is probably 3 to 4 years into our business, we said, oh, we need to make speakers, and they have to be just as intelligent as that, but as compact as that if we're going to really become a true player in the multi-room audio space. So I like to highlight just a little bit around, these are the different products we shipped over the next couple of years. And so from about 2005 to 2000-ish, 15, 16, we made huge investments in what I called all-in-one, which is really just a compact speaker. So we have a Play 5 up in the left-hand corner, which is really for your audiophile, your person that really wants big, bassy sound, and for a bigger room. The middle ones, which are our Sonos ones, that was our entry point into a more mass market product. It's like a $199 product that delivers great sound in a really compact speaker. And then we made another big pivot, which was around actually investing in home theater. So not just the concept of putting a speaker in a room, your kitchen, your dining room, like your bedroom, and listen to music. We're actually going to provide the ultimate sound for TVs. And that was really what we saw, is said, okay, all these people, the TVs are getting thinner. There's no way for the sound to get better. And how can we actually activate and win by delivering a high quality experience? And keep in mind, all these products still work together seamlessly in the same system over time. So a statistic that I love to drop, and that our CEO loves to drop on investor tours, is 93% of all the products we've ever shipped since 2005 are still active today on a monthly basis. So that's a testament to us thinking about the customer, that they're not going to want to just throw away this product every other year, which is really the life cycle of consumer electronics today. But we have many products in the marketplace today that are 15 years old that are still working the same as something that you bought yesterday at the store. So we made big pivots around home theater, but also just ensuring that these system and this technology all work together, which was core to the customer experience. So one other thing rattled us a little bit more recently, which that's an Amazon Echo. So in 2015, Amazon pushed out their first consumer-facing product around voice technology. At the time, we had many engineers, many thought leaders in this space that had come from big technology companies like Microsoft and Amazon, and really said, yeah, we tried that, it doesn't work, right? No one's gonna actually adopt it. So we waited about 1 year, and many millions of devices sold after that, and we realized, wow, this technology is getting better, quicker, and people are adopting it. And a core part of what we had to do at that point is say, we need to shift our resources to this new user experience, this new UI that people are going to want to use as maybe their lead into music content or creation, as well as control. And so this is a great slide to show how our business has shifted as an organization. So really, at the starting point where we really began to see growth in 2018, or 2008, excuse me, the three things that were drivers were mobile adoption, the adoption of consumer or music streaming services, and then local area networks, so Wi-Fi. And it shifted dramatically, almost overnight, to this concept of voice technology. And the fact that we didn't actually have voice technology in our platform, in our software stack, in our hardware, we had a bad year. And so we needed to make incredible pivots, not only from a hardware, software, marketing perspective, to this new user interface that everyone was interested in. And so really the future, as we see it today, is focused around the growth of voice technologies and how they interact with content control. This was a little shaky and scary for us because we had controlled most of the product development and the product stack and the marketing story end to end. And really, we brought this category of wireless or smart speakers to the forefront, and we created our own category. And now we had all these big technology companies coming in and investing many millions of dollars and educating the market on what this smart speaker is. And we had been making smart speakers for a long time, but no one really knew about it until these guys jumped in. And so we had to make another very big pivot to how we interact with this, what's the experience, and we got to be thoughtful about this because this is here to stay. So about this time, again, in 2015, 16, we call it the golden age of content, but it's really, you can access anything, anywhere, anytime now, in terms of content that you want to listen to and love to consume. And so we thought of Sonos as we could be thought leaders in this space, and this is maybe how we can inject ourselves as a brand against all these other big tech companies. What they're delivering today is a utility to you. So the idea of you can control anything, but they don't go very deep on any of those verticals or controlling any of those ecosystems. But we can, with our 15 years of experience in kind of sound architecture, we can inject ourselves as, hey, we're the thought leaders in content, and we're going to deliver the best audio experience and visual experience with our portfolio and our system of products. So as I said before, these are really interesting, we call them frenemies. So all these big technology companies are not only integrating with us, but they're in essence competing with us by what they're delivering in the marketplace. And that's a tricky world to be in with partnerships because you have to be very thoughtful on what you're delivering and how you optically navigate some of these big tech brands because they have different motivations than you do. But that's really the fun of working at Sonos and being kind of the underdog in this space. But what they've helped us do is they've helped shape our marketing story and our brand story for the future. And so what they're doing is it's a race to the bottom for them. So they're building things that are much cheaper, less quality. And so we have an opportunity to come in and say, we're all about quality, we're all about system, and this is how we're going to succeed. We're still going to support all the content, voice experiences, all the things that you want in a system, but we're going to do it in a much more unique, seamless way. They also have a lot of opportunity for us to educate the market, right? If we do it right and we inject ourselves at the right time, they can educate the mass market of what a smart speaker is or what this thing is, and we can come over the top and say, if you're invested in quality and in longevity and system, this is what Sonos can deliver for you. So just kind of recapping the history and the thought of Sonos, we think we can push ourselves into this space and really be the cultural leader in how we think about content consumption, how we think about sound and quality in the home, and through our ability to pivot and be agile in our software stack as well as our hardware stack, we think we can really build amazing cultural experiences and building up a brand, which is really hard to replicate. And in essence, not as many marketing dollars can be thrown on building up a really authentic brand for the creators. And that's where we think we can inject ourselves and be successful. So a little bit more about my role at Sonos. The Sonos sound system is really largely focused on software, but it also involves our hardware. And so our day-to-day focus is bringing together the Sonos sound platform, which is really the concept of we want you, the moment you walk into your home, to be able to stream anything and everything through any speaker in the home at any time. And so that's a big pivot from where we were. We moved from really music and focus on that vertical to sound as a concept. And so we want to architect our products for the sound experience versus just a music experience, which there's a lot of hardship that comes with that, but that's the world that we need to pivot into because people want to listen to anything off any device, any user experience in a high quality way, and that's where we think we can succeed. So diving deeper into my role day to day. So I focus across these 4 categories as a whole. As I said, our team as a whole of business development leaders, we look at different business model, geo expansion, different business drivers, as well as nurturing these relationships. And I kind of zone in on both our software platform, but these 4 categories of content, voice, smart home, and brand. So content is really where we've been focused for 10 years. We built common technology stack, common things around how to integrate with Sonos and build the best content experience. And we're continually doubling down on investing in more providers on that and being what we define as like an agnostic platform. So that's any content provider. You have great content, come work with us at Sonos because we can deliver that quality experience and tell that unique brand story together. Second, which I touched upon already, but voice technology. So we want to apply that same thought and strategy around content to voice. So we want to integrate all the voice providers onto our platform that matter to consumers and that they want to see. And so that's really important, and that's our day-to-day kind of bobbing and weaving around these partners because a lot of them want to build one standard relationship with you or one standard SKU or one hardware piece, and they don't want to have the other big competitor on the same thing. And so that's where the fun of voice, I think, in particular, for our group is navigating those discussions. And then the third is around smart home technology. And so Sonos is being a sound system and people wanting to integrate all their things that connect to the internet. You know, we want to be a thought leader in sound. And so how do we interact with all those different providers in that space that very differentiated versions of smart lighting and security and a bunch of these other verticals that matter? And how do we work with them to build the best music or content or sound experience into their portfolio or their smart home intelligence story? And then the fourth, which is, I'll use the IKEA example because that's really the only one we've invested big in right now, but it's going and looking at huge brands that maybe have little to no understanding of our IP or the sound experience and delivering something together. And so the IKEA relationship, we're building a speaker with IKEA, right? And we're going to utilize their core understanding and vision of the home in terms of the different things that they put in homes with our IP and our sound system, right? And so those are 2 amazing things coming together, in particular for a little small speaker brand, because we get access to a lot of their understanding, their data, as well as the ability for us to launch into these new verticals and expose ourselves to new customer bases. So this is a really exciting one in particular for me, is looking at big global brands and what can we bring together and build a true partnership, our IP around sound and sound architecture and content, and then whatever the other side may be. I think these are kind of the future of where Sonos can really succeed. So this is a bit of a framework that we use in terms of partnerships at Sonos. And it's pretty simple, and intentionally it is that way. There's lots of other debates around what are the things that are important when you're looking at partnerships, but these are kind of the first filters that we look at whenever we're engaging or trying to build a relationship. And so it goes around reach, relevance, and experience. And so reach, pretty simply, is what's their footprint? What different distribution channels do they have? Is there something interesting that they could bring to the table that we may not have today? And what could we maybe expose in terms of expanding to a new audience that we hadn't seen before? The second is relevance. And oftentimes we focus in on brand relevance, right? Is there something secret sauce there, some authentic thing that we can expose as two brands coming together and really blow something out of the water that's blowing people's minds or reinventing something together? So oftentimes relevance is focused around brand, but it could also be Amazon Alexa, right? They're relevant because they're the global leader in voice. And so we have to engage with them because that's what consumers want to see. And there's so much relevance there that we can't avoid not working with them. The third is experience, which I've already touched upon a lot, but what's the product experience? If it's a retail activation, what experience do you want that consumer or someone going and attending that thing to look like? And it really tends to focus around how do we deliver something incremental for the customer that we hadn't seen before. And so we really use these three areas as like dials to understand what are the type of partnerships we should prioritize, what are the things that matter through different verticals, and not just looking at maybe just the potential commercial opportunity, but the brand opportunity as well. So going back to our mission, which I touched upon at the beginning of the presentation, not a lot has changed, I'd say. This is where, tweaking a few different things and words, we're still focused on delivering what we define as sonic internet. So that's really anything that you could stream out loud on the internet, and helping those people that like that concept, that want to hear higher quality sound or experiences, let them do that across anything in their home, right? And anywhere in their home. And so we haven't tweaked much in our mission, which has been strong for about 15 years, which again is a testament to the underlying focus that we have and the ability to pivot a bit, but stay true to our core as entrepreneurs and as a business. So finally, I'll tell you guys a little bit about some core principles, not all, but core principles that we have around brand building and what matters. I said it would happen again, and it's happening again. Experience comes first in terms of how we think about brand building. And I love to use this example. This is a retail store we built in Berlin, and it's pretty awesome. And what we've done is built these little home-like things in this big retail space where people can go in, get shut in, listen to music, and deliver on all these core things of like what the Sonos experience is. So everything down to, as you can imagine, the architecture in the little homes, the different things that are on display in there constantly are being shifted out in terms of cultural relevance. And it's just a testament to how far our team goes to really deliver on what matters and what matters to consumers and building an elevated experience that they wouldn't experience anywhere else. This one is not as good a one for our finance team, but they still understand that it's important to think about. So, being a quality brand, you get approached by a lot of different companies that could throw a lot of money at you, but it may not be the right thing for your brand. And so you got to weigh those things. And oftentimes there's no right exact formula. We can go back to the criteria, the three things that I touched upon in terms of partnerships. But engaging in a partnership just because the financial gain is there doesn't always work for your brand. And so you got to weigh those things every time when something comes through the pipeline or that opportunity comes through the pipeline. And that's how we think about it at Sonos. And not every business has this luxury, but really someone that's focused on brand building and someone that needs to keep that authentic brand in place and the authenticity of it, you sometimes have to turn down certain business opportunities that may look great on paper, but are not the right thing for your brand. This is, I think, something core that we've thought about, I think since day one, but really honed in over the last probably 5 or 6 years, is how you're building that direct relationship with that customer that you've brought through the pipeline, if they're utilizing your products every day, what matters to them. And so by direct relationships, it doesn't mean just CRM. It doesn't mean just looking at what the point of sale experience is, but everything down to something like customer care. So we made a very concerted effort from the beginning to actually bring customer care in-house, and it's a big cost center for us, right? But having someone that works internally, that deals with people on the phone, that's helping them reboot the customer experience or reboot their whatever is happening in their home in terms of the system or something that they're running into as a bug is so important, right? It's not just getting them through the funnel and having that in their home. It's the extended experience after that. And so it's, again, a testament of how we build direct relationships and how we bring people internally sometimes that to help support that full value chain of the customer that you may not get other places. And so I would say the one thing that I love about Sonos is really this customer care team that we built. We probably have over 200 to 400 globally of customer care people that are literally answering the phone to help people set up their product or if they run into issues. But that's everything around the brand. It helps build that brand equity, and it shows how important these little nuances is of building a business and building the right brand. Finally, and this is, I'd say, a little more focused on Sonos, but I think is important across many businesses, is building this truly emotional connection on a local level. And so when Sonos thinks about building out activations, building out different content providers, and this was a strategic effort we made in supporting all these content providers, because there's going to be your top tier, right, that work across globally, probably gets you 90% of the way there. But being able to support a classical music in Germany that maybe has 10,000 customers and building out an activation and something so core like music to them, that's how you build an authentic brand. That's how you really activate locally and how you build that trust with that consumer. And so when we think about building out things locally, it comes in our app. It's language support. It's the services that we build into our system. It's how we look at POS displays at retail. It's not one size fits all, which makes it a lot harder. But in the end, that local customer you've built in the Netherlands versus the local customer you've built in San Diego are vastly different. And so you have to apply different strategies and tactics to those customers. Cool. That's all I had. But I'd love to take any questions, and thanks for listening.